Hello, everybody. Welcome to Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics. Ooh, today's episode I am really looking forward to. It takes us back to one of the strangest, really strange, and most revealing moments in early American history, the Doctors' Riot of 1788. My guest is Andy McPhee. He joins me to explore a time when medicine, fear, class, race, and public trust certainly collided on the streets of New York City. We're going to be talking about body snatching, bloodletting anatomy, and the desperate need for doctors to learn about the human body, even when the public believed that line was being crossed. This is a story about more than medicine. It's about perception, power, ethics, and what happens when people no longer trust the institutions claiming to help them. Andy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Diane. I appreciate it.
Now, I am really curious. What brought you onto this particular topic? Body snatching, bloodletting, 1788?
Yeah, well, I had never heard of this, but I had finished with my previous book, and I was looking for a new topic. And in that search, I came across this riot,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of pulled together all the not only my strengths but my interests as well. Had a health component to it, and it was something I don't think many people know about. And if they do, they don't have a real sense of what it was. And so I thought this is a good topic to write about. So I did. That's how
You know,
that that's
I
how
had
that happened.
no idea about this until one day somehow I saw the title of your new book and I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds like a great thing to learn about. And, you know, I've been involved with biology, health, pretty much my whole life. But you think about it, like, how did people decide and learn that, muscles versus fat and identify all those different muscles? Well, at some point it had to be pretty gory what they were working with. So I'm curious what was happening in 1788.
So the early America did not have any actual physicians, very few, about 10% of about 3,500 physicians in early America up to about 1800. They really learned by apprenticeships. They would work with somebody. And the physicians that the U.S. had trained almost completely in Edinburgh or Scotland or Paris, some medical school. Edinburgh and London were huge medical schools, and they did they did it a lot of people from the U.S. And those physicians brought the same practices back to the U.S. While in England, and then again in the U.S., you had to work with an actual body. Um, and the only way to do that was to obtain a cadaver. It was to, and to obtain a cadaver in Europe, mostly they said, okay, you can get any body of someone who's been executed for a crime. And that's a few a year, but that wasn't very many. Certainly not enough. Well, to come to the United States, uh, the Revolutionary War created a huge need for more physicians and more surgeons, and they all had to learn. And what they learned on were cadavers that they could get a hold of, and where they got them for the most part in New York is the Negroes' Burial Ground, now called the African Burial Ground National Monument in New York City. Nobody batted an eye. They also got cadavers from the pauper cemetery. Nobody batted an eye. But when they started to steal from Trinity Church Cemetery, um, which was a graveyard mostly for whites, that didn't go over well. And the city rioted. People rioted against that. So there were no books in early America, the U.S. We didn't have an anatomy textbook till the mid 1800s, late 1800s. And you can't learn. You can learn a lot from a text, but nothing hands-on.
Right.
And one of the things I put in the book is that you, the an instructor, anatomy instructor I talked with said, I have students who think that looks like a nerve, not a vein. And then they feel it. And they go, oh, now I see what the difference is. That's how you get that learning, that tactile learning. And how else you going to get it way back in the day, but working on an actual body. And it was kind of gross. Um,
You think about it. I mean, I don't know if they still do this in school, but I certainly remember frogs. We had to dissect a frog. And you can look at all the pictures you want. It's not quite the same as when you
no,
take that little sharp, um, what do you call it? That
scalpel.
knife, scalpel. I was thinking scaffold. I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. That's how we hold things up, not how we separate them. Yeah, that's scalpel, and you
Yeah,
slice in, and you feel the tug of the skin. I mean, it's totally different experience, and that's a
totally different.
frog.
Right. And it's obviously it's the same kind of experience, but on a much greater level. I remember I worked my way through nursing school in the operating room, and I would help with gallbladder surgeries. And back then, long time ago, uh, they cut a large incision in the abdomen, either straight down the middle or along the right rib cage,
Hmm.
and because that's where the liver is, and the gallbladder hides under that flap of the liver. And I remember feeling the liver for the first time. And go, oh my God, that's like it's very firm. I wouldn't have expected that, but it is. That's how students have to learn.
Hmm.
The problem with that back in the day, before embalming came up in the later 1800s, after the Civil War, during and after the Civil War, the bodies would decompose fairly rapidly. There's no refrigeration. So it required uh, anatomy instructors to get fresh cadavers. There is such a thing. And so they would hire body snatchers, these people called resurrection men or dig 'em up men. And they'd find these people, men, almost always men,
Hmm.
to find burials that happened that day and then go into the cemetery that night and surreptitiously steal the body. Now, I could explain how they did that if that would be interesting.
Sure, I think this is
Okay.
fascinating.
So it took at least two or three men, usually three, one as a lookout,
Oh, makes
then the other
sense.
two guys to dig down. And so these caskets that people were buried in, not so much the African American uh, burial grounds, but or African burial grounds, but because if they had a casket, it was very, very thin wood because their masters didn't care.
Hmm.
Uh, but in other graveyards, they would dig down at the head of the where the person's head would be, smash through the top of the casket, loop something around the head or the shoulders. Sometimes it was like a hook-like instrument, and pull the body out the head. Put them on a tarp of some kind, not like the kind we have today, but a cloth tarp or something,
Hmm.
and then carefully put the dirt back into the grave because they didn't want it to seem as if the body was gone. They didn't want to have anybody thinking, they wanted everybody to think it's exactly the same as the family left it.
Right.
And the families at that time would put stones in certain configurations, or they would put a special meaningful thing. And if that got moved, they go, oh, what happened here?
Hmm.
So, anyways, and then they take the body to a physician who would pay them 25 or $30, $50 sometimes, uh, and
So they
that's
were
it.
making a lot of money.
They were making really good money back in the late 1700s,
Wow,
absolutely.
that's a lot of money.
And then
I
within 3 days,
disgusting crime.
yep, it's yes. Well, that's the thing here. That's the morality of it, right?
Yes.
You've got students who need to learn on cadavers.
Hmm.
You've got faculty who learned to go body snatch themselves in Edinburgh, in London, in Paris. They that's what they learned. They would go out and get a body, and then they'd come study it. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing happened in the U.S. So yeah, these resurrection men, and these were not the tidiest men, you know. Um, they were often brutes, very clever, but they were performing a service. Yeah, they were getting paid, but who else is going to do it other than the students? And the students did it a lot. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Students would be assigned to go out and get a body, and that's the one you and these other friends or the other students would work on that body. Um, and when the riot happened, they found a couple of bodies in the anatomy lab being worked on. When because the rioters broke into New York Hospital trying to get the students, and there were bodies on the tables. Um, the that students were learning on. There were organs in bottles. There were skeletons in the room because that's how you learn
Right.
anatomy.
It
You know,
really
so
is such a moral conundrum. Obviously, you could say, well, couldn't you have asked first before you took the body? Like they do now. Do you
yes,
want to donate your body to science? But apparently things hadn't moved along that far.
well, it was a different. That's looking at it through today's lens.
Exactly.
Um, but it's also the underlying reason for so much anger that
Mm-hmm.
you took my wife's body, my father's body, my kid's body, whatever, and said, you're not supposed to do that to my kin. If you're in the black cemetery, well, that's fine. Nobody's going to worry about that. And they actually are people who said that. Says nobody's going to care anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
But we do care about this.
Hmm.
And that racism that was prevalent, well, still prevalent, obviously, but it was really prevalent then. And the blacks had a number of blacks had signed a petition that went to the city council. Please, we understand why you're doing this, but please have a little more discretion. Please let us know what you're doing. And nothing ever happened. So the same morality that we face today with getting permission, signing the HIPAA form, doing all the other things that modern healthcare needs, that wasn't happening really back then because these were not the bodies were not legally uh, salvageable. That is,
Mm-hmm.
the body was not was nobody's property. Once a person died, they died, and
Right.
the body was up for grabs. The clothing, anything buried with the body, any jewelry or gold teeth or anything like that buried with the body, if those are stolen, that's theft of property. And it was that way from hundreds of years ago. And it basically continues to be that now.
Hmm.
The body, once a person dies, it's not a property anymore. So the legality of it, the morality of it has just been, to me, it was fascinating.
Now, where did the bloodletting part come in? You
Oh,
mentioned
medicine back in
embalming
those days.
early, but what's bloodletting?
Uh, blood, bloodletting, I don't really know how it came up other than in really olden times, 14, 1500, 1600. They didn't know anything. They didn't know anything compared to what we know now. Getting rid of the bad humor, because blood was one of the humors. There were 7 humors, and blood was one of them. And they thought, well, getting rid of that can cure a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And in the U.S., Benjamin Rush, who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, a hugely influential physician in Philadelphia, he was one of the biggest bloodletters of all time. Bloodletting is you make an incision over a vein, forearm, wrist. A lot of times it was a wrist. And then you insert like a little tube. It was like a little trocar that you insert in, and you literally drain blood off into a bowl, a bleeding bowl, and you drain 100, 200 cc's, sometimes a half a pint, sometimes a pint, and you would do this repeatedly because the thought was this is going to help with the pneumonia. with the traumatic injury you suffered, with anything else that you've got going on. Uh, yeah, bloodletting will help. Washington died because partly died because of bloodletting. He caught pneumonia riding his horse in snowstorms. And
Mm-hmm.
the terrible snowstorm. One day, then he went home and slept, and when he went out again the next day, even though he didn't feel well, and he came home and pneumonia developed, and the surgeons bled him several times, so his body didn't have enough power to to fight the pneumonia, and he
What
died.
was the rationale behind that? I
I
mean, I
have no
realize it
idea.
was all
Yeah,
early medicine and everyone was trying to figure out everything, but
it
any
really was
idea?
the thought based on these humors. Bile was a humor.
Mm-hmm.
Humor.
Mm-hmm.
Ho. I said Ho. No, that's right. Hum. Yeah. Anyway, humor. Um, the British spelling, and they thought the body's health came from a balance of those humors. Blood, which was one, they could do. They couldn't take out bile. They didn't even know where it came from. But blood they could take out, thinking that they had too much humor, too much of the blood humor. Phlegm was another humor. Anyway, so they would bleed them, and it gained traction. And even when Benjamin Rush, as an example, prime example, was confronted with like actual evidence that it didn't work and it made things worse, there was one physician who was very um, critical of Rush and his techniques, and Rush sued him for bad mouthing him, and he won. So this physician who was against bloodletting sued Rush, who was for it, huge bloodletter, and he killed untold number of his patients. Unbelievable, and that's as did any physician because that's all they knew. There was little else they could do. They they didn't
You
know
know, the
enough about the
crazy
interior.
thing, the
Yeah,
only thing I can think of where, let's say someone is producing abnormal amounts of iron in their body,
right.
then yes, they encourage you to donate blood once a month. Get rid of
Yeah,
some of the blood, your
yeah.
body, will balance things out. So that is a definite answer to a medical condition. The people who have that, it's a genetic issue where you produce too much iron.
Right. It's
But
polycythemia vera,
yeah,
and yeah, the treatment still is bleeding.
donate
Although
blood.
really, you're taking blood out. Right, whole blood.
But
Yep.
I genuinely cannot think of how this built up as, oh, this is a good idea, because where was a single like rebound where someone said, "Whoa, you took that pint of blood, I feel much better today," or maybe they were feeling much better because they didn't want to have it happen again, so they said, "Oh, just tell them we're feeling better."
Well, there were times that people actually did get better. It didn't help getting uh, blood taken from them, but they
That's
got over it
probably
anyway.
that's probably
Yeah.
great evidence of the placebo effect.
It was, yeah, I think that's probably true. I didn't look that much into bloodletting, but that's probably true. There were very few actually. I mean, burning of the skin, putting hot stones on the chest was once thought of a treatment for asthma and pneumonia and other breathing difficulties. Where did they get these things from? They got them from because they didn't know what else to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they were trying things out. And today's medicine came from in a number of areas from those kinds of techniques, trying something and it doesn't work. Mercury
That's
used to be
really
given.
how it all
Mercury,
happens today too.
yeah, well, it
Clinical
is.
trials, it's a little
Yeah,
different,
clinical
but it's
trials.
still trying to figure
It's
it
still,
out.
you've got to figure out how that happens in the body. You can see what happens on the mouse, but you don't know what's going to happen on the human body. And so those
Right.
trials can be enormously, and they are enormously helpful. Um, and you got to make sure that you do the research right and hope that the researchers aren't lying and things like that. But that's another
Now,
story.
now let's go back to 1788 because I'm curious.
Hmm.
So there was an uproar in New York City,
Right.
and people were realizing, oh, wait a second, you're pulling some of the bodies now also from Trinity Church. We don't like this. What was the aftermath? Did anything actually change?
No. They made laws uh, to allow the anatomy professors and physicians to have more bodies. Okay, you can have a body that's unclaimed from the pauper cemetery or wherever.
Hmm.
You can have those, and you can have any executed criminals. That was it. Well, they already were getting those. That really was not
Hmm.
much. And plus, after the war, and certainly after the Civil War, there was an enormous increase in the need for physicians. The growth of medical schools from 1800 to, let's say, 1850 was enormous. You went from Columbia University, well, Columbia College at the time,
Hmm.
that medical school, and University of Pennsylvania, the College of Pennsylvania in
Hmm.
Philadelphia at that time. Those are the first two medical schools. And you had Harvard and Dartmouth, and they they grew, but they grew hugely in those first few decades of the 1800 because you needed it so much, and it grew even more after the Civil War. And with that growth comes a need for more cadavers. They they used to get cadavers from down south. New York was the prime place. Well, once you run out of cadavers in New York, where are you going to get them? So there are stories of schools in New York that would send somebody down to Georgia, Alabama, and literally pick up bodies and bring them back. University of Georgia Medical School actually hired a guy to do nothing but go to cemeteries, pull bodies for the medical school, for the anatomy classes. And he was a very proud member of the staff of the College of Georgia, University of Georgia. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, so there's all kinds of ways they tried to do what they could,
Hmm.
both under the law and also skimming. And the lawmakers said, we can't do anything. At least let them go. So yes, it's against the law, but everybody understood both sides. I
Yeah.
won't say everybody did, but I mean, they have a need, but it's also a dirty racket, and
Hmm.
you can't. Even today, there are very few laws, very few, governing the taking of a body and splitting off its parts, which kind of gets us into modern day body snatching. Is it too early to get into that?
No, not at all.
No.
Let's get into it. Modern day
Body
body
snatching,
snatching.
modern day, I call it modern day body snatching. It's still happening. It's just subtle. This is what that is.
Yeah.
There are body brokers, tissue banks that are associated with universities, medical programs, and they're also uh, in malls in Texas and Arizona and all over in many places in the country. There are these little body broker tissue banks.
Yeah.
They receive bodies that are given to them or given to a funeral home, and the funeral home gives them to the tissue bank, which is a nice term, but actually it's just a body broker. The body broker will take orders for body parts. So the military, medical schools, uh, national associations of oral surgeons, of orthopedic surgeons, those kinds of things, where they're having a conference, will order, all right, I need 12 shoulders. I need 24 knees because that's how many people are going to be practicing on the knees. I need eyes, or I need the whole head because they're going to be practicing surgery on the eyes or the teeth. That still goes on. And where are you going to get those? You get them from body brokers. And no one knows how extensive the illegal body broking business is. Nobody knows because there are no rules or regulations to control it. And there have been a a significant number of uh, situations where a funeral home works with body brokers to sell bodies unbeknownst to the family.
Mm-hmm.
Alistair Cook, you may remember him from PBS Masterpiece Theater, sure. He died in his 90s. Um, his uh, his bones, his long bones from his arms and his legs, were removed and replaced with PVC pipes, unbeknownst completely to the family, of course,
Wow.
because he was going to look. They wanted him to look right in the casket for an open casket funeral, which he had. Those bones and other tissues were sold to body brokers. This particular funeral home was run by a guy named Michael Mastromarino, and he was on Staten Island. He was sent to prison. He died in prison. But he ran a large body broker ring and selling bodies and body parts for years. He worked with a number of different funerals. There was a recent body snatching scandal at the University of North Texas. I hope I'm saying that right. Don't hold me to that.
Okay.
Where people in the mortuary uh, of the medical school were selling body parts, selling cadavers. The best thing is if you're going to get cremated, beautiful. They could take anything they want out, cremate you, give you ashes.
Right.
Whose ashes those are never traced. There's no national registry of where an arm went, a shoulder went, the mouth went, hip, knee. Yeah, it's really unbelievable. There's a guy in Florida, Thomas Champney. He's works at the University of. No. He's part of the South Florida uh, organ procurement center. He's like, I've been after Congress and even state Congress and U.S. Congress to do something about this issue for years. 10 years he's tried to get things done. Nobody wants to touch it.
Why do
Nobody
you
wants to
think
touch
that
it.
resistance exists?
I think part of it is a cultural thing. Um, we don't want our families, the member that we've given a body to, we don't want to have to think that it might have been sold off, that his body parts might be all over the place. We want to think he's resting comfortably in the ground. So there's a denial aspect, I think. Politically, it's not good for anybody because you're in the same boat as you were in 1788. I understand that the surgeons have a new technique to fix a frozen shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
a new technique for a knee, to replace a knee, and they have to practice on that. They don't have to practice on whole bodies anymore in an anatomy lab, but they do need an actual knee.
Mm-hmm.
That's a valid reason.
Right.
And because not enough people are willing their body, they're called willed body programs. Not
Mm-hmm.
enough people are willing their body to one of these programs that they have to go outside.
Right.
Most of the body brokers, I'm hoping in my heart that the majority of certainly university and college-based body programs, willed body programs, are above board. They're tracking everything and they're letting the family know what could happen. But I don't know, and nobody does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could end up being sold to a company that's going to send it overseas because there's a college in Brazil that needs shoulders. The military uses chests a lot for bullets and bomb penetrations and to see if their flak jacket works. Those kinds of. There's a lot of that research going on. Automobile manufacturers test crashes, test actual cadavers in crashes to see what happens. It's not like the old time photo video used to see where a car crashing into the wall. They
Right.
still do that, but they do special things. You have to do something special to use a whole cadaver because they're not cheap. But yeah, so that sort of thing still happens. And Harvard was the latest one. There's a man named Cedric, and he was a morgue manager at Harvard Medical School.
Mm-hmm.
He was part of a body broker ring, and he was just sentenced. And I mean just sentenced. There are several in the ring, and everybody else pled guilty, except for him. He went to trial, he was convicted, and he was just sentenced like in March for maybe 5 years. I don't remember the sentence, and it's not important. But the fact is, that happened in March
That's
from a case that,
unbelievable. It's not
yeah,
easy to get me to be speechless, but you have accomplished that. As I'm thinking about this, because I know on your license, do you want to be an organ donor?
right,
And you have the choice of yes or no. The idea, and certainly cremation, it makes sense. Well, I mean, not that it's justified without someone's
right,
permission, but you are dead,
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. But
that's a
the
right
family
to
has a,
know, you could say.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh.
it's something. So when in my book, I repeat the advice that I received from a number of people I spoke with, that if you're considering donating your body to science, first understand that uh, there's a myth out there that cadavers donated to science are used to create new cures for
Hmm.
diseases. No, that never happens. What does happen is that you're willing your body to a university, to a body broker house, a body procurement center, and you are hoping that the body gets used wisely. You can, in many instances, when you're telling them, right, I'm going to sign up to have my body donated to you. I don't want it going overseas. I don't want it leaving the state. Don't use my eyes. Those kinds of questions or those kinds of issues, you often have a right to tell the tissue bank of your requirements.
Is
There's
the,
no
is
law
the
that says they have.
business is the
It's a
business
business.
actually called a body broker? Like
No,
what
body broker
would
is what
that business be?
they
What would
are.
that business be?
Willed body programs or body procurement tissue banks. So if you look up tissue banks,
Yeah.
the size of that market is multi-million dollars. Uh, because you can get 300 for 500 for a shoulder, 300 for a hand. Those. I know this is so gross to talk about, but it's necessary.
Mm.
But there are problems within that you need to
Right.
regulate that, and you need to have someone coming in and say, okay, if you're going to do that, you need permission from the family, not just to
Mm.
take the body, but also what you're going to do. These are the possibilities these are the things that could happen. So people, if you want to will your body to science, go and talk with them, see
Mm-hmm.
the facilities, ask as many questions as you could think of. They should be completely transparent with you about what could happen to the body. Now, me, if my shoulder gets sent to Seattle and my knees get split up between Houston and Boston, yeah, I'm okay with it because they're going to be used for education.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Want to go overseas? For me, want to go overseas? Yeah, what do I care? I'll travel the world. That's me. But other people have, there are very different cultures and cultural ideas about handling a dead body. And so I think medicine and the tissue bank community at large needs to pay attention to those cultures and to take care of those body parts just like they take care of an organ donated but from a live user. Tons of regulations about that. I'm going to give up my kidneys. Okay, you go through this hoop, that hoop. There's a lot of laws and regulations on the books about this, but for body parts, virtually none. And yeah,
Oh my
I know you're
gosh.
shaking your head. I know. Yeah.
Well, oh my gosh, Andy, these episodes always go so fast, but I can't
So
imagine the highlight clips we're gonna get from you talking about body parts. We're gonna have everybody calling up their attorneys, their doctors. Oh my
well,
gosh.
go into it like it's like buying a house. It's a huge thing. Treat it like buying a house. Do your due diligence. Make sure you visit the house. Go through it. Have somebody come in and look at the house. See how so really do your due diligence because that's really what it's like.
Now, I'm just curious, are you doing this due diligence when you say, okay, if I die today, I'm choosing this funeral home and this, or is this part of someone's estate planning, their will? Like, you don't
It should be
usually do your
both.
will
I mean,
until sometimes after someone's very dead. So, like,
yeah, the family should know. It should be part of some documentation that can be given to the hospital if a person dies in a hospital, or the funeral home if a person dies at home or something and is taken to a funeral home. There should be some documentation about this is what I want. If you're married or with a significant other, or you're single and you have children, whatever the case is, that your family should know what your wishes should be, and preferably line up, if you're going to donate your tissues, line up a tissue bank that you've already researched. I'm saying that I'm 76 years old. I'm saying that I haven't done it yet. It's on it's on my list, but I haven't done it. Maybe this will serve as a call to action. But that's what should happen, and I know that's what should happen. I haven't done it. Ugh, it's just I don't know. Yeah, you do it. I'll promise now to do it within the next month. Yeah, I'll do that.
no, but I understand that, when my mother died 3 years ago, and she was extremely organized, as was my father when he died. And I watched my husband's father die not organized at all. Things
Yeah.
like very disorganized.
Yeah.
And, nobody wants to think about when they die. But let me tell you, our children were horrified. They found a folder on my desk. It's like this high. And it says, open in the event of my death or total disability. Because where is somebody just going to find your passwords? Where are they going to find, accounts, you might have? All basic things, like super basic things. Do you have a safety deposit box that you never told someone about? Or where's the key? Simple things. Yeah. And now I'm thinking about what I need to add. I need to add, gee, if I'm going to be cremated, what happens to my body parts before? Do they go with me? Or do you not even bother passing the ashes, because who knows if they're even mine? You have given me a lot to think about, Andy.
Well,
I'm not sure I wanted to think about it, but I'm certainly thinking now.
Oh, good deal. That was my goal.
Oh, you nailed it. Oh my gosh, Andy McPhee, this was such a great episode. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And the book is available at Globe Pequot. I'll tell you what it looks like.
Yeah, show the book.
It's The Doctor's Riot of 1788. Yep.
The
Body
Doctor's
Snatching.
Riot of 1788, everybody. There'll be all kinds of links to get it below.
Great.
I want to thank you all for tuning in. I've been speaking with Andy McPhee. He's the author of The Riot of...
Doctor's Riot.
The Doctor's Riot of 1788. There will be all kinds of links below. This is the Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics podcast. Like I said, I'm Diane Grissel. Please hit subscribe, share this with your friends, and really think about this episode. There's so much to think about from beginning to end. It certainly got me percolating. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Diane. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Hit subscribe. Andy, stay with me.